Congratulations, Frederic, on recently marking 25 years in India. We would like to start the conversation with, like pandemic has disrupted business models, questioned many pre-existing notions. It has made leaders rethink about centralized supply chains, sustainability, product lines, and how they do business in general. Can you share what are the paradigms that the pandemic has made you question?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, and when you go through these type of crises, everything is up for change, to be honest. And if you don't have that attitude, I think you will perish. So some of the changes that we have noticed then is the significant reduction in the dependency on office centricity. And before that was also an image thing, right? To be present and have your logos in physical locations, etc. We have closed 11 offices during 2020. And we have realized that those offices are no longer needed. There's a different need for investing same money that went perhaps towards these offices into different aspects of the business, digital of course being one. So I think office centricity, working from home actually works. I never expected that. I would say that in that essence, I'm probably a traditionalist. I didn't like people working from home. I didn't like working from home, pre-pandemic. And now I think it actually is a very, very good combination. Not 100%. I don't think, but 1 or 2 days a week, work from home and be quiet and work on the things that matter, etc., etc. So very interesting. Another thing I think is also traveling. Traveling will be important in the future, but significantly less important. And we have already said that nobody will travel in the future for the purpose of reviewing numbers. Nobody. We will travel to build culture, but not the reviewing numbers. That is easily done on Zoom or Teams or whatever platform you prefer, So there's a bunch of learnings. And perhaps also another part that we have learned, but maybe perhaps which is more of a challenge, is how do you build a culture virtually? That is much more difficult than physically, of course. So that is a challenge, has been a challenge. I think we already in Oriflame have such a strong culture, so that has remained in the past year. But, as we go along, we need to figure out how we drive culture virtually as well.
Great. So, Frederic, you're already talking about resetting the business. No one's now talking about restarting, but resetting. So, can you now share? You have already shared some of the problem statements that leaders like yourself are, trying to answer. So, have you also started introducing introducing strategies into the business to move ahead around these lines?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we have been, I'm very proud of the team. We have been extremely fast during, 24th of March, the lockdown started, and even on the 25th, and from there on, we've been talking about this. So I think, yes, indeed, we have implemented a bunch of the stuff that I talked about.
Would you like to share some examples and also about how, some of what the examples that will help Oriflame stay relevant in the future in this post-paradigm, in the post-pandemic world that everyone's talking about?
Mm-hmm. I think, sure. And I think that, beauty will continue to be relevant. Men and women will continue to have needs to look beautiful, both from a topical point of view, but also from an internal point of view, of course. Our business opportunity of providing people an entrepreneurship with Oriflame, a means to make a business for themselves, will be even more relevant going forward with the unemployment we see from certain sectors that have been significantly hit by the pandemic. So that is relevant in itself. our relevance will also be, of course, how we communicate this and how we attract people, customers, consumers to Oriflame. And I think we were very, very digital pre-pandemic. And I guess that was good for us. That helped us go through the tougher periods. But I would say today we are 100% virtual. And that will help us. And we will continue making large investments in digitalization further in terms of applications and ease of doing business in general.
And do you think the whole, a lot of, businesses during the pandemic came online, they listed themselves on the whole aggregator model. And Oriflame has largely stuck to its original script of, direct selling, word of mouth. So how do you see, that strategy in, the post-pandemic world? Do you think that it is still possible to stick to it? And what will then be the digital strategy moving on?
I think it's an interesting question. And direct selling, as you say, has evolved over the past decade. And it has evolved significantly in the past couple of years. And of course, then enormously during the pandemic. And today, our industry is better referred to as social selling. And the word of mouth is equally important for any business, regardless of industry. In our businesses, it's super important too. And this word of mouth is the same. It's just digital now. And you can reach out to many more people with whatever you want to talk about. So from that aspect, that really and truly goes in our favor. I don't know, Sonal, if that's the answer to your question.
Yes and no, because, I would also like to hear more of the digital strategy, so what do you think about coming on, because now every business that we speak to, wants to be at every, platform or every nook and corner available, wherever the consumer is, like whether it's a app or it's a payments app or it's a aggregator or it's offline. So I was just trying to also figure out Oriflame's strategy.
All right, okay, perfect. I got it. Thank you, Sona. Well, our strategy is to be 100% digital, and we are that today.
Yes.
We will not team up with aggregators, or we will not sell our products on social media platforms, etc., etc. We will sell them on our platforms. And the main purpose behind that is, of course, not to compete with the lakhs and lakhs of brand partners that we have in India. So we have one platform to buy Oriflame products. And I think that's a strength for us. Then I think some of the, the strategic changes for the future we have already done. Now we will continue to, of course, evaluate some of those decisions, whether they were good and whether they make sense, etc. in the future. And we have also seen an enormous shift of our meetings. We drive our meetings and our business with meeting people in large gatherings, in small gatherings, etc. And during the pandemic, that was not possible and still isn't.
Yes.
But we have learned now very quickly to do virtual meetings, and we do them with flair and excitement. And I think the last meeting we had over 50,000 people attending live.
Oh, wow.
And of course, then those meetings are also later on posted, and you can reach out to an enormous amount of people. And that has changed our strategy going forward. It doesn't mean we will completely stop with offline meetings, but we will now have a very good and strong complement.
And what do you think? So Oriflame shared some phenomenal growth numbers, during the pandemic. Can you share a bit more about that?
Yeah, we took a hit during Q2. And of course, I think a majority of companies did because we couldn't deliver any products. I think the major success for Oriflame during 2020 was that we were so close to our people. every single day we talked to people, we had meetings, we pepped up each other. We kept that, you know, that winning sort of attitude with us, even though we were super frustrated and scared, you know, like many, I guess, during the lockdown period specifically. And that brought us even closer together. And then when the lockdown ceased, we were already at 150%, you know, motivation. So we were just going. And that helped us build back in Q3, and Q4 was a record quarter for us ever.
Great. And Frederic, also you do a lot of work around, you know, women entrepreneurship, or 70% of your workforce is women. So would you like to, you know, share how the brand has been able to build itself through empowering women entrepreneurship in the last 25 years that it has been in India?
I think that's a very good question. And what is it really and truly that generates equality and independence and women empowerment? Well, there are many aspects. Education perhaps is the foremost. Money is a very important aspect too, because when women have their own money, independence comes with it. And that's exactly what we offer. We offer women of every age or every background, and men for that matter also, but right now you asked about women, to join us. And once they do, and once they become serious about building a business for themselves, then they will make very good money. I mean, we have women today in Oriflame who make, I mean, I nearly don't dare to tell you, but upwards to 30 lakhs a month. You know, that's very good money. I mean, so I'm very proud of that, because we have seen how these women evolve through being a part of a business. They learn professionally. They learn public speaking. They learn to go after things in the same manner as men. And I think it's fantastic to see and to work with this every day. I'm super proud of what Oriflame does.
Can you also share, you know, some initiatives around education, because there are some interesting initiatives that Oriflame does in that space.
Yeah, I mean, over the past year, 18 months, we have been teaming up with a company called Kedman, and they are working with education in India aimed at women, various education, and we have sponsored various initiatives with them. We have sponsored also a learning course in entrepreneurship that is actually approved by the Indian government. We have also sponsored their entire IT lab in Haryana, etc., etc. And this, of course, education is key for empowerment, for combating corruption. That's why I think education is so important, and I stand behind any initiative here.
Beyond women, are you also now looking at other kinds of inclusion and diversity within the firm? Because I think it's also time to move the needle beyond gender.
I agree. And as a Swedish person, I have a little bit difficulty understanding this question.
I can imagine.
Because for us, it doesn't
Yes.
matter what religion
Yes.
you have, or skin color, or your
Yes.
sexual preference. We just don't care. I mean,
Exactly.
what you do in your personal time, that's your business.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's why, you know, I wanted to ask you, because you're at such an interesting space, you know, Swedish in India, running a very big company, which already has very strong roots in sustainability. So maybe that's something that you would like to share, because sustainability, COVID has, you know, made a lot of conscious consumption is now on the rise. Consumers are now asking questions. So, and Oriflame has been one of the strongest pillars of Oriflame since the very beginning. So what are some of the efforts that you think have helped Oriflame in that front?
Well, I think that since like you rightfully say, Sonal, this has been in our DNA in Oriflame since inception. And I think that has given us an advantage when the general consumer maybe 10 years ago started believing that this is important, that you buy eco-friendly products, that you buy fair trade products, etc., etc. We have been working with this for many decades. So for us, we have been welcoming this. And I strongly believe that it will be the corporations around the world that will drive environmentalness, that will drive sustainability. It will not be the governments. This has to be private initiatives. That's when it will compound and have serious impact. So I'm very proud that in India, for instance, we use 100 recyclable and sustainable electricity. We use 100% reusable water. We have a water filtration plant in our factories where we convert rainwater back into water to be used in our production. So we do so many things, and we focus, of course, on the impact on water, on the impact on trees, and the nature as a whole. We do things here in India also with fair trade and other things. So we do a lot of things, and I don't think the time is enough for me to go through everything. But
also, there is also a rise of a lot of clean beauty brands in India, and there are a lot of startups in personal care that have come up. So, how does, as an established brand, what would be your view of this rising competition in this space?
Personally, and I also think professionally, I welcome this. Because as I said, the corporation and the demands of the consumer will drive this. And therefore, I have huge expectations on the next generation.
Okay.
You know, I really do. I mean, we have to drive these issues. I mean, we are, as mankind, we are smarter and better than this. And we need to be responsible. And I think that transcends nations. This is global.
Interesting. So, Frederic, are there any questions or any last thoughts that you would like to share? Any lessons learned, on your personal capacity as a leader, on how you will do things differently next year? One, work from home certainly is one. Apart from that, anything else?
I think it's good. And actually, I was thinking about this the other day, and I actually wrote a LinkedIn feature on this recently.
Okay.
And from a leadership point of view, I think that 2021 will be similar to 2020, yet different. And I think as a leader, you need to really focus on a couple of attitudes and attributes in your organization going forward. And I think innovation must be in the forefront. And not only innovations when it comes to products, but innovations all around, like you mentioned in the beginning, Soma. Strategies for the future. Then you need to have guts. You need to have guts to implement those things. And things that might be scary to you, you have to just have guts to do things differently. And I think lastly, you need empathy. I hope that the 20s, we're now in the 20s, I hope the 20s is the decade of empathy. And empathy is the understanding of other people's situations, not sympathy. Those two words are different. And I think empathic organizations build and cement culture. So that's what I will drive going forward.
Great. Frederic, thanks a lot for these, insights, and it was a very interesting closing note, and we all close with empathy now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks
sir.
Frederic. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank you,
good
sir.
day.